Hello, insiders, and welcome to another episode of Connecting Through Science. My name is Jason Jaksetic. I am the Content Marketing Manager at InsideTracker, and today I am joined by Milena Jorge, Vice President of Science at InsideTracker, and we're going to talk about InnerAge 2.0. Hi, Milena.
Hi, Jason.
Pleasure to have you with us today. You are the expert on InnerAge 2.0. Could you just start by just telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I am a physician by training, and I have a PhD in immunology. So I've been doing throughout all my life, all just research between like how do we use the things that we learn on the bench and then in the research side, and we use that actually for our users to make them happy.
That's very interesting. So you are the person to talk to about this new and exciting product, InnerAge 2.0. For the insiders who don't know InnerAge, tell us the difference between your InnerAge, which is your biological age, versus your chronological age.
So one of the things that we have learned more and more in the last few years is that even though we have our chronological age, which is basically the day of your birth, and then every year after that, you get your cake and you sing happy birthday, and you think that that is your age. But one of the things that we learned in the last few years is that our body age in different rates. So it could be that your inner age so your chronological age is 45, but your body may not be 45. Your body may be a little bit younger, a little bit older, or very much younger. And not only that, we also have been learning more and more that the organs, the system in our body. And by that, I mean like your cardiovascular system, your immune system, your respiratory system also age not in a synchronous way. And then inner age that's what it is. So we use biomarkers and a physiomarker to try to understand how old your body is. Not the age, not how many birthday cakes you had in your life, but actually how old your body is.
Wow, that's very interesting. So the InnerAge has been around for a little bit, but this is kind of the celebration of a new version. Can you talk to a little bit about the improvements and new innovations that came with InnerAge 2.0?
Sure. So actually, inner age is, I think, biological age is something that people are starting to talk about more now. But actually, when we launched our first version of our inner age, we were actually very pioneer in the field. And one of the things that we did at that time was you have to understand that everything is moving very fast, right? I mean, science always moves fast, but the pace of like data, collecting data, integrating data is moving as like no precedent. And what we did 5 years ago when we released the InnerAge 1.0 was that we spent a lot of time reading the literature and then understand what was the status. Like, so what was the impact of vitamin D, the levels of vitamin D with people aging? What was the impact of glucose in people aging? But then in this last 10 years, we have been collecting. We have tons of users, like several thousand of users, and we've been collecting information about these users, right? So then we decided like, okay, so the first version, we didn't have enough data. The literature was the only way to go about that. But now we having this access to all this data here in front of us. So then we decided like, okay, so let's see what is the data telling us. Right? Can we learn more from the data? So what we did here was like we put together the data from all these users, and then we separated them in male and female because we could. And the reason why we separated them is because we could see that the biomarkers are relating to age between the two groups were different. Then we separated those, and then we said, okay, so given all these biomarkers that we have in our database, what are the ones that have a higher correlation with age? Then we selected those small panel, and that's why you can see that in male and female, they have different numbers. So today, InnerAge, we use 14 biomarkers, I believe, for female, and 18 biomarkers for male. And then based on that, we say, when we look at someone's blood, we say, given someone your gender and your age, how are your biomarkers away from that line that comes from everybody together? So other thing that I wanted to say here is that is very important is the fact that because this was data-driven, we and the fact that this was calculated by the data from InsideTrackers, what we are having here is that we are holding you to a higher standard. And the reason for that is because InsideTracker users are actually healthier than the average, let's say the average American. If we look at the population, the data in the American average population, our population tends to be healthier, right? So then basically what I'm saying is that if I am calculating the InnerAge, your InnerAge, according to the user, InsideTracker users, is mean that I'm being a little bit stricter and I'm holding you a little bit to a higher standards to calculate your InnerAge. So if your InnerAge is below your chronological age, do not feel disappointed. We have been tough on you, but not because we are tough people, just because we wanted you to get to the best possible InnerAge possible.
And so along with the more data, the more information, you mentioned there's more biomarkers involved, it's much more advanced. Does that increase more stability or a little bit more consistency that allows you to get more accurate results now?
Yes, you're spot on, Jason. So what happened is that you can imagine, right? If you are calculating a formula that is divided by only like in 4 biomarkers, if one of these biomarkers has a higher change, this is going to have a higher impact in your InnerAge. However, if you have now a biomarker that is measured, an equation that is being calculated by 18 different biomarkers, the oscillation of each of these biomarkers actually have a different impact. Having said that, I don't want to give the false impression that every biomarker in the equation have the same weight as important to the equation, and that is not true. And then the decision was also not arbitrary. The decision was also based on the data. So for example, we asked for each biomarker, how much this biomarker change inside of a person in different measurements, and then across the population. So then we can put the appropriate weight in each biomarker. But you were right on that the more biomarker I have, and because this is being calculated in data, so I have more information to normalize that information, to reduce the noise, the InnerAge 2.0 is actually less sensitive to the little things that you did yesterday, but it's more realistic of the things that has been happening in your life in the last 3-6 years.
Okay. So, I mean, speaking about today, is my InnerAge is not below my chronological age. Like you mentioned, I'm working on it. And there's a lot of biomarkers involved. There's a lot of moving pieces. I would like to work on my InnerAge. Is it possible to improve your InnerAge? And how does somebody go about doing that?
So one of the things that we did is that when we look through all our biomarkers and we understood the biomarkers that are associated with age, we went back and said, okay, are those biomarkers, can these biomarkers be changed by lifestyle? And by lifestyle, I mean by a supplement, by exercise, by eating habits, by eating better, sleeping better, by your overall lifestyle. And the answer is that the majority of them, yes. Not 100% of them, but several of them, yes. So what means is that when we see your InnerAge is not as good as you want it, don't panic. Just go there, spend time, and in the website, you're going to see that for each biomarker, you're going to see the list of actions that you can do to improve that biomarker. Anytime that this is available, you're going to see that. Like, for example, for me, I do have a problem with my DHEAS. My DHEAS, it's not as high as should be for my InnerAge. So that brings me a little bit older. But then I learned that actually if I do yoga, and I like to do yoga, but in this case, yoga here is not only about like bringing me the peace of mind, that actually yoga has been proven to actually change the levels of DHEAS. So I can improve on my my DHSS just by lifestyle change.
Wow, that's really interesting. And so with the InnerAge 2.0, you mentioned it's going to let you know which biomarkers are a little bit off, and then it tells you how to go with an intervention, and it gives you recommendations. Can you talk a little bit about the process of InsideTracker giving recommendations to help move the needle a little bit?
Sure. So one of the things that my team does, and we have a team of about 12 people between data scientists, epidemiologists, clinicians, nutritionists, epidemiologists, molecular biologists, it's a very diverse team. And what we do is we spend a lot of time reading papers, reading all the research that has been doing everywhere in the world. And what we do is we're trying to understand for this biomarker, what are things that people have done and that people have proven to work. And not only that, we go a little bit deeper and we try to understand, does this intervention works for everybody or just for a specific population? So for example, the same way that we know that some biomarkers behave differently in men and women for InnerAge, sometimes an intervention works very well for a specific group of people, but not for the others, right? So what we do at InsideTracker, we spend a lot of time, not only how is this intervention works for this biomarker, but is this intervention work for people like you or for somebody else? And we try to reduce the noise of what you hear as much as possible. And we try to give you only the recommendations that we believe is going to work for you.
Wow, that's amazing. And you mentioned those interventions are lifestyle driven, supplements, exercise, and nutrition.
Nutrition. We are very, very focused on nutrition. We believe that eating well is the path, and that we can actually get a lot of the things that we need in our body just for the nutrition, just by picking the right food, right? And then also, of course, there are some things for example, vitamin D. It is very hard to get the right amount of vitamin D through your diet. So then in those cases, we do recommend some supplement. And then we also have a lot of information, for example, on lifestyle change. For example, one of the best things to do for your InnerAge, but not only for your biomarkers, but for your for your cognition as you get older, is actually doing brain games, right?
Really?
So there is a lot of research there. So a lot of those little games that you have in your phone that you sometimes, you are passing your time. Yes, you're passing your time, but they also are working. And your brain is a muscle. And you need to stimulate your brain. You need to keep stimulating the synapses. So one way for you to actually age well is to continue to do and continue and doing constantly brain games. Other thing that we can learn too by doing some research is that there is some research showing that even sauna also has an impact in your overall aging, the healthiness of your aging, in your health span. Right. So it's really related to a lifestyle. One of the things that we make sure though is that everything that we recommend is on the user's hand. It's not something that they need a prescription. It's not something that they need a doctor. It's the things that they are the actor. They can go there. And if they decided that I want to do it and I want to try, they are in the position to try that.
And you brought up an important point I want to ask you about is you mentioned health span. And it sounds like we're getting at the difference between, lifespan is years, but what is health span in terms of longevity?
I think long have been the age that the time that we wanted to live to 80 to 90. What we wanted is to be in good health when we get to our 80s. We don't want the expectation before was to be when I'm 80, if I'm sitting in my chair, I'm happy. No, I think what we want now, we wanted to get in our 80s, but we wanted to get in our 80s being able to do our job, to do the things that give us pleasure, whether it is working in your house, in your carpentry, doing something. So we wanted to have a good health span. We wanted to increase the years where we have good health. We don't want to increase the years of our life. We want to increase the years that we are in good health to do what we like, to do the things that give us pleasure. And that's what it is, healthspan.
Wow, that's great. And I felt that. I felt that healthspan when I looked at, I got my number, and I was like, this is what's going on inside me. It's not just trips around the sun. And Milena, thank you for breaking this down for everybody today. We've run out of time. This was really informative. Insiders, if you don't have your InnerAge, I really suggest you get it. You'll get the guidance to improve it, live a longer, healthier, better life. It's very fascinating. Milena, thank you for the chat today.
That was my pleasure.